how to make corporate speeches. So today's video is slightly different. A lot of my colleagues and friends have asked my advice on this topic and they came back to ask more about it, and clearly it works for them. I realized I might have something of value in this. Why not make a video so that others can also take advantage? Well, mainly so that I can monetize it, but you get the gist. This video is going to be about public speaking, but corporate version. So when you're doing a presentation in office or just presenting a proposal for your boss or client, the tips I'm gonna share in this video will be helpful for you. And that also, if you don't work in an office, you will still find these tips helpful for any kind of public speaking. Basically, if you're human, you're gonna have to do that someday. So you might as well watch this video, as I have tried to stay away from zooming in on one specific career. So it will be helpful for anyone who is looking for some kind of quick tips on how to deliver certain news confidently, effectively, elegantly. I have about more than 10 years of experience in HR. I started out as a recruiter when I was in college, when I was doing my master's degree, and then I moved into HR. So you can say from the beginning of my career, I have had to learn to be a people person. But not only that, I also had to be someone who can convey a proposal and negotiate things like that. And as I moved up into my job, I had to do those things to group of people instead of just one-on-one. So public speaking is something I have done a lot for my job, and here are some of the tips if you are just starting out. Grab your coffee or diary, whatever you want, and we'll start now. So the first step becoming an effective speaker is to expand your vocabulary. What I mean by that is that when you're talking and you're able to use different kind of adjective and transition word into your daily conversation, that makes you sound elegant and professional. Effect of that is very immediate, so you don't want to miss out on that. In order to expand your vocabulary, make sure that you do daily readings, and the daily reading should be on different kind of topics, because when we limit ourselves to only one genre of reading, we tend to incorporate more of the vocabulary of particular genre only. In order to diversify your vocabulary, you have to include readings from different kind of topics. Reading alone, however, will not help you to incorporate these new words into your daily vocabulary. What you have to do after you have encountered a new word while reading is while reading it in a context. So try to understand it in the context that it was used, and then throughout the day attempt to use that word at least 3 times in your conversation, if it's applicable, of course, or at least within the first week of learning the word, make sure to use it on a daily basis so that that word becomes part of your daily vocabulary. There are so many words that we see every day online when reading, but sometimes those words never make it to our daily vocabulary. To make it part of your vocabulary, you have to use them as often as you can. Now this is particularly important when it comes to adjectives and transitioning words, because truly nothing makes our speech richer than using the right kind of adjectives. Let's say instead of just saying beautiful, you can say pleasing, charming, appealing. There are so many different words that can be used to describe that one particular feature. So the more diversified you are with your adjective and vocabulary, your transition words, things like that, the richer your speech is going to be. Next tip is managing volume of your speech. So if you're someone who probably on a daily basis speaks on a volume that's typically considered high, you have gotten some feedback about being loudspeaker, you have to consciously put effort into lowering the volume if you have gotten that feedback from people. I mean, for your daily natural speech also, you have to be man or woman, you can't be a loudspeaker in public places. That's just not elegant and professional. Of course, given the context where you are, if you're somewhere you have to increase the volume to be heard. It's natural that you have to increase the volume. Even if you're speaking with a huge crowd, the trick is not to increase the volume of your speech, but rather to lower it so that you can make the audience calm down and therefore listen to you. Now, this is something that is often taught by a lot of TED talkers and by a lot of public speakers, that in order to grasp the attention of your audience, you don't have to increase the volume of your speech, which is actually counterintuitive. You actually have to lower it. When you lower the tone of your voice, what happens is that people calm down, they go silent, and they start paying attention to you. So if you want to be confident and elegant speaker, then work consciously on lowering the voice of your speech. I mean, obviously, to appropriate content, you don't want to be whispering things, but you want to speak on a volume where people have to quiet down so they can listen to you. Next tip is pace the speed of your speech. If you are someone who tends to speak really slowly than you have to do, especially if you're going for a job interview or maybe you're doing an elevator pitch, let's say you're a salesman and you have to give a proposal, there is a limited amount of time that people have to listen to you. All you have to do is be conscious about the speed of your speech and try to step it up a little bit, because listeners, they tend to get bored, their attention gets drifted away, so you want to retain their attention. Therefore, you have to speed up your speech a little so that your speech could be more dynamic. However, if you're someone who tends to speak very fast, like I have a friend, he practically raps when he's angry. He kind of swallows some of his words, and if you do that in professional setting, then that translates into being not confident, that you are trying to hide something, that you're not very confident, you're perhaps someone who's always in a rush or who's impatient. What you have to do in this case is again put conscious effort into taking little pauses between the words, trying to incorporate silence into what you're saying, because when you take pauses and when you take silent breaks, that makes your message even more powerful. You might have noticed a lot of politicians doing that as well. I mean, Narendra Modi, if you have seen any speech of his, you know what I'm talking about. Most politicians do that. Next tip is do not end your sentence on a high-pitched tone. What I mean by that is a high-pitched note could be translated as a question mark at the end of the sentence. So if you're reading something, try to read it out loud and see how you're going to end the sentence. When the sentence is questioning something, you end it on a high-pitched note. Women tend to do that even when they're giving some statements, especially in corporate culture. Ladies, it undermines your credibility. It doesn't make you sound confident. What you have to do is end the sentence on a low pitched note so that people that are listening to you can understand that it is a statement and that is a full point afterwards. So to give you a vivid example, instead of saying, "I'm not very happy with this budget report," which is a high pitched tone, I say, "I'm not very happy with this budget report," or "the budget report is not satisfactory." That's a low pitch note. You see, the message was the same, what I said was the same, my voice sounded the same, but in the first example, it was in a high pitch note, almost questioning myself. And the second one, I just lowered the pitch of my voice, and that made it sound confident. I knew what I was talking about. I know what my feelings are. In order to be confident speaker, you have to know when to end the sentence. On a low pitch note, you can have the softest, sweetest voice out there, but if you're tough, someone who speaks and ends the sentence on low pitch note, I guarantee you everyone will take you seriously. This is a very common to women, where they end the sentence with the saying, "Do you know what I mean?" That statement, "Do you know what I mean?" Same thing, that goes well with the ending the sentence with high pitch note. Don't say that. Whenever you say something, unless of course you're amongst your friends and you want to know their opinion, do end the sentence with you know what I mean? But not in corporate environment. When you're the one actually giving out information, when you're the one presenting something or selling something, you can't undermine yourself. It definitely does undermine whatever message you said before that. So keep that in mind. Next tip is speak less than more. I know a lot of my female colleagues and friends have been telling me that whenever they get nervous or when they're meeting their superior or someone important, like important client, they tend to blabber, they tend to rant, they can't stop themselves, and I'm guilty of doing that when I meet someone I admire. Very common thing for a lot of people. But in order to stop that, you have to put conscious effort. What I suggest doing whenever you feel nervous and you feel like ranting, when you do, is take a mental break. Mental break could be think and count 10 in your mind. So if you feel the urge to say something, take a pause, count to 10 and think, do you still want to say something? If you no longer want to, just keep silent. It works same with the anger, and it works like this when you're nervous as well, because I have history of saying wrong things when I'm nervous. You'll definitely regret your rant. Silent is golden. Anything that you say after taking that little break, this little silent pause is much more important and much more powerful and magnified in its importance. For the next thing that you're going to say afterwards, it's going to sound just more thoroughly thought of. If you watch any shows, every villain you watch, do you ever see those confident villains ever ranting? Every villain, Disney movie, Marvel villain, they're saying their words very slowly, they're saying the words very precisely, they're using particular word to weight them down, and they take their time on saying what they want to say. So I'm not saying be a villain, but I'm saying that does make you look confident. So take your time and say what you want to say. Don't rush. Do not rush. Next tip that I think goes without saying is get rid of any curse words, any swear words, any jargon that you have in your daily vocabulary. If it is something that you were taught when you were younger, or maybe something that people you socialize with tend to have that kind of vocabulary, and that includes lot of jargon, try to get rid all of that. It does take a lot of conscious effort. It doesn't happen overnight, but you are your own filter and you are your own best public speaker coach, because you listen to yourself more than anyone else. All you have to do is engage your mind where you're talking and try to take pause whenever you feel like a swear word or a jargon is trying to get out of your mouth. I'm sorry about the noise. I think it's the monkeys in the balcony, but yeah. So take the silent break, interrupt your conversation, and then carry on. Along with this goes all kind of filters that you might include in your speech, like things like that. Well, actually it has happened to me before as well, because English is not my first language. It is something that I learn and still improving every day, along with my many other languages that I'm currently learning or I find useful in modern world. What I want to say is I wasn't really thinking in English when I first started, so I would include those filters to take the time to kind of find the right words to say something. So if you're an English speaker or a native speaker, you might not have this problem. But if English is not your native language and you have been learning it and sometimes a word can escape you, it could happen that you're looking for some word and you are saying some filters in order to recall that word in your mind. You can catch yourself doing that, and then instead of using the filter word like Try to take pause and think of the word. Take a pause, go silent, and then continue on once you have word or alternative word of that sort. That's why my first point was to read more, because it's not only about vocabulary. Because when you're thinking and word doesn't come to your mind, you don't immediately have to think of the alternate or synonym word. What you can do is change the grammar of the sentence. That way you can use a different word, and that quick thinking will only happen if you surround yourself in that language. You read a lot, you are in the atmosphere of hearing that language, you watch shows in that language, then it would be kind of easier. In any case, whenever you feel like you're about to slur something, say something that you'll regret, take a pause. Next tip is do not interrupt. Do not interrupt and do not let others interrupt you. You interrupting others is in your absolute control. You are the one who decides if you want to say something where other people are talking. When you're listening, be an active listener. Not just listen in order to say something in return or to give some kind of input into their conversation. Let the person finish their thought and then you'll add something if you have to add something. Don't always have an opinion on everything. Your words should have value, and your words are the money. Use your words like money. Don't spend it on things that does not require your high valued opinion. What happens when someone interrupts you? It's not in your control. You can't do anything about it, but there is a technique that you can incorporate in order to make sure that you are heard and you don't allow others to interrupt you, and that is to simply carry on talking while the person that has interrupted you is still talking. I'm gonna say that again because it's really important and it is confusing sentence. Simply carry on talking while the person that has interrupted you is still talking. You don't have to pay attention to what they're saying. You just continue your speech in the same pace, in the same volume as you did before. There is no need to increase your speed in order to speak over that person, because that will show to them that they have heckled you. Also make them think that you're doing it intentionally, that they have bothered you, you're trying to overspeak them. What you have to do is keep on the same pace and volume and just keep on saying what you have to say until you finish your point. And if the interrupter is someone you admire or respect or someone who's superior to you, definitely go back to them. Once you're done with your point, ask them, you were saying something. You can provide them respect like that, but you don't have to let anyone interrupt you unless it's your direct boss. Again, this might sound counterintuitive, but you might think, how do I continue talking when the person that has interrupted me is speaking? You just go on with your message, and what would happen in this case is either that person that has interrupted you will stop talking because they see that you're still carrying on with your point, or the people that are listening to you will make a conclusion that you simply ignore the person who interrupted you and you carried on with what you had to say. So that's a very confident look. Next tip is using confident body language. Confident and elegant speaker is the one who not only speaks with their verbal message but also communicates with their body. Body language and hand movement, tone of your voice, everything. Everything is not part of the verbal message, is part of body language. You have to pay attention to how you say it, and body language is crucial in order to translate your message like that. The posture should be open, your shoulder rolled backwards and downwards, not like this. Your chest area should be open, don't slouch. Your hands are visible to the listener. Don't put them in your pocket. You can put one hand if you wanted, if that's your style. It shows that you have nothing to hide. It's subconscious relation, but it does work like that. If you are delivering a speech in front of a crowd, like your own team or people from your department, or simply just doing a presentation in front of your boss or a client, what you have to do is make sure that you use your entire stage or whatever space you were given for the presentation, you use it to your own benefit. What I mean by that is, do not get glued to one spot. Make sure that you walk on the stage, use that space to talk to every segment of the audience. People on the back, people on the left, make sure you're making eye contact, and that will make listeners feel like you are reaching out to them individually in segment. Again, mental thing, but works. Another part is using hand gesture. Hand gestures are important and they should be included in your speech, in your mannerism. But mostly what it does is it translates to confident. People think you're not afraid to be on stage, you're comfortable, you are relaxed enough to walk in and give the speech. Whatever you do, never turn your back on audience, especially someone you're proposing an idea to. When you're selling, you have to be giving them full attention. When you're doing a presentation, make sure that most part of your face, your body is towards them. Like when I'm recording this video, I can't be like this. No, I have to be like this, because it can help you communicate the message much better even in your day-to-day life. If you've seen the movie Eat, Pray, Love, there is this scene where this Italian barber tells Julia Roberts that we Italians would not only speak with our mouth, but we also speak with our body language and hand and gesture, and she was just so fascinated by it. She started practicing it, and when you learn that, you have to be careful that some gestures could be appropriate for some culture and might be frowned upon others. Like, you know how pointing fingers at someone is considered rude, and especially in East Asian culture. But if a celebrity does it on a talk show like this, they go like this. It's cheeky and it's playful. I remember in Sindhi, this hand gesture, it's offensive. It means something bad. I'm not sure if I should say it here on my channel, but what they say along with this gesture is Watamui Panja. So when you translate it, it doesn't sound so bad, because it is still something that is said to offend someone, similar to like flipping them off, like showing them middle finger. It's similar to that, but the words that are coming out of their mouth, it's not exactly bad. So you have to be mindful of the gestures that you incorporate into your daily life. But there are some general gestures that are accepted across culturally. So most important one I find is having your palms visible, open like this when you talk, without pointing fingers, but keeping your fingers together while you talk. You might have noticed Sadhguru always pointing their hands up in the air like this, open palms. If you have ever watched any of his video, he does this quite often, mind you. That hand gesture makes you think psychologically that this person has nothing to hide or is an honest person, because the open hand. I'm not saying that's why Sadhguru does it. I'm saying certain gestures have its impact on our subconscious mind. By the way, I wasn't making fun of Sindhi people a few minutes ago. I practically grew up in Sindhi household. I used to spend like 7 to 8 hours in a Sindhi neighbor's house every day up until I was 14 or 15. So after my morning school, I'd go to their house because my mom would be at her job till like 5 or 6 in the evening. I was even fluent in Sindhi up until about few years ago. But yeah, no shade to my Sindhi subscribers if I have any. Next tip is speaking in front of a mirror or film yourself while talking. Thank God we live in an era where everyone has a phone where they can film themselves, talk naturally, and maybe have a conversation with themselves and then check it out later. This exercise of talking to yourself or trying to, give a speech or talk to your boss or your client, your student, your teacher, whatever, do that. This exercise is just, it works. It gives you so much insight about yourself. Film yourself, pay attention to your tone of your voice, to the volume of your voice, to the pitch that you're using, your hand gestures, your body movement, everything. And then sit down and analyze what is something that you really like about your speech and what are some things that you would like to improve or work on more. Then do a conscious effort on daily basis to incorporate those habits that you have or want. I tell you this, no one is going to be a better public speaker, speaking teacher or coach to you than you yourself, because you see your own conversation on a daily basis. You can note it with your friends, you can know it with your family, you can ask them to give you feedback if you're that comfortable with it. You can note down some of the things that you need to concentrate on, and most importantly, you can practice. That's about it. Please hit that like button if you like this video. Save it in your playlist so that you can come back to it when needed. And I'm off. Bye.